Yo, hello, good people, wherever you are in our glorious world. I hope you have an enjoyable day, even night, wherever you're located. I'm looking at the NBA game. I think it's New Jersey. I'm sorry, the Brooklyn Nets versus the Dallas Maverick. You know, like when you're watching those NBA games, you like to show NBA commercials. One thing I find sad on the NBA commercial is show Isiah Thomas and the other legends like such as Larry Bird and Reggie Miller. Many times in the past, we have seen Isiah Thomas on various NBA shows of various legends such as Dominic Wilkins, Magic Johnson, Patrick Ewing, and the list goes on and on. But I was thinking, this is the sad thing about it. You remember back in the late early 80s and early 90s, Michael Jordan and Isiah Thomas, they had many classic games. On all the shows I see Isiah Thomas on, each player usually talk about classic games they played. But sadly, Isiah Thomas and Michael Jordan seem like they're going to have a feud forever. And that's sad. Bill Russell told Kobe Bryant, it's sad when men of color can't get over petty things. Now, I know Bill Russell's not perfect either, because I heard from many commentators he and Wilt Chamberlain had a little scuffle for many years. He insulted Wilt Chamberlain and they never spoke to each other again. So Bill Russell is not like no prophet or guru, because he shared the same thing that many of the current players have done, like he did with Bill Russell. But with age, allegedly comes wisdom. As he and Wilt Chamberlain got older, they decided to let go the feud. So for all I know, well, Michael Jordan in his 60s, and I know Isiah Thomas is a little bit older than Michael Jordan, so he's in his 62, and their feud is still going on to this day. Like I said, on many of those shows that I said Thomas on, he and past players be talking about some of their NBA trials and struggles. It would be refreshing. It would be a pleasure to hear Michael Jordan and Isiah Thomas talk about the struggles they face in overcoming each other. Because I heard before the Chicago Bulls defeated the Pistons defeated them at least 3 times. Then eventually they won, I believe in 1991, when they swept the Pistons. It would be so refreshing to get an intake on Michael Jordan's view of those games of the Pistons, and to get Isiah Thomas' view of those games. But of course, see, you remember back in that era, it was something with the Pistons called the Jordan rules, where they wanted to treat the Chicago Bulls. They played like the Pistons played football, from what I heard, with the Chicago Bulls, especially with Michael Jordan. They didn't want to give him no easy shots, so they was tough and hard on him. And then Michael Jordan eventually learned that lesson. He learned, hey, I need to get in the weight room and toughen myself up. And of course, when Michael Jordan got in the weight room, many of those other Chicago Bulls went to the weight room. So in 1991, when they faced the Pistons old tricks did not work, because their bodies were strong and tough, as the Pistons saw when they got swept. But it still would be refreshing to hear how Michael Jordan and Isiah Thomas fed off against each other. We never hear about that. All we hear about is how the bad boy Pistons kept bullying the Chicago Bulls. We never hear any great plays by the Pistons. We never hear any great plays by the Chicago Bulls, or how, because I heard this too, during that era when the Chicago and the Pistons was going to war, they said that the Pistons faced their greatest challenges when they was up against the Bulls. I believe they swept the Lakers. Of course, a number of the key Lakers players was hurt, so it was easy to sweep them. I think Magic Johnson was out, Baron Scott was out, etc. So it was easy for the Pistons to beat the second tier players. But regardless, as I was saying, we never get to hear any beneficial remarks about Piston versus Bulls. We hear about great remarks when Larry Bird was going against the Pistons. We hear about great games when the Pistons was going against the Bird. When the Pistons was going up against the Celtics. We hear about that. We hear about sometimes when the Pistons was facing the Lakers. We hear about those things. But we never, and that would be a refreshing thing to hear. How the Bulls were going against the Pistons, and they eventually overcame the Pistons without anyone being injured. See, that's the biggest thing about the Bulls. No player on the Piston team was injured. Maybe that's why Isiah Thomas walked off the court like a bee. Because I saw that game. And I think that's why, too, we don't hear nothing good about them. Because if Isiah Thomas would have been a man like Michael Jordan was, when Michael Jordan got defeated those 3 times in a row, he manned up and wished the Pistons well in the next round, which usually was the NBA Finals. If Isiah Thomas would have went to congratulated Michael Jordan and say, I wish you well in the next round, they could have had a good relationship to this day. And even now, Isiah Thomas, I never heard him publicly say it. Even now, Isiah Thomas, he could call all the Chicago Bulls of that 1991 series. He can call them, because remember, he was the leader of the Pistons. Isiah Thomas, he can personally call Michael Jordan. He can personally call Scottie Pippen and say, look, Mike, look, Scottie, look, BJ, look, John, look, Bill, I'm sorry that I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't man enough to just say, look, I'm sorry. He can say, I gave into my passion. I gave into my anger. But no, he can't even do that. So, what type of man is he really? Because I'm a teacher. I tell my students a real man has the ability to apologize. And I do that for my students. If I'm sorry to my students, I will say, I am sorry, with sincerity in my heart. I wish Isiah Thomas would have the ability just to say to Michael Jordan and people, I'm sorry. Now, if Michael Jordan them forgave him or not, that's on them. That's on them. But when Isiah Thomas faced God or whoever that is, whatever creator that is, he can say, I did try to amend myself. I did apologize, creator. Whoever it may be, whoever the creator may be. Isiah Thomas can say, I showed that I'm sorry for what I did. Because Isiah Thomas said he can still say, look, he was young. He was in his 30s. He wasn't no 50-year-old man doing that. He wasn't 40. And he was a champion. And you know, most champions, all players don't like losing. I know that. No professional athlete, whether professional or not, don't relish losing. But he just did it in a sad, pathetic way. But if you ever hear this, maybe he'll hear it, maybe he won't. He still should say, whatever creator there is, don't do it for Mike. Don't do it for Scotty. Don't do it for BJ. Don't do it for them. He can say, Whatever creator is out there, I'ma do it to show the creator that I have the ability to apologize. And then, maybe then, after he apologized, we can see fantastic conversations about Isiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons versus the Chicago Bulls. And I heard too. Now, I guess I don't blame Michael Jordan, but I heard too when Michael Jordan created that 10-part series, he offended Isiah Thomas for some of the way he reflected Isiah Thomas. But again, if I tell you Isiah Thomas ever hear this, because you know human beings for the most part, we petty creatures. We petty creatures. If you ever do something wrong to most of us, we don't forget it, and we get you one way or the other. But the main thing, if he didn't walk off that court, I think he and Michael Jordan will have some type of cordial relationship. They probably wouldn't be the best of buddies, but they would have some type of cordial relationship where they can sit there on most of those NBA shows and talk about the tough playoff series they have. But anyway, tell me what y'all think. I do wish I could see the Pistons versus Chicago on some of those NBA specials, because that would make very entertaining, very watchable content. And now, since Michael Jordan no longer has majority ownerships in a Charlotte team, maybe he will sit down one day and get on those basketball shows and talk about some of the series he played. Because you know, if he's an owner, he can't go on those shows and talk. But since he's not the majority owner anymore, one day he can go sit down and start talking and be civil and lively on the camera. So tell me what y'all think. Until the next time, good relatives, good people, peace.